you don't need much. Size does not matter when it comes to subwoofers. It's how you use it. It's, oh God, that's a, no, we're keeping that in there. Welcome to Two Dudes Audio. Today we're going to talk about the ever impending question, does size matter? For subwoofers at least. We're going to explore basically what you can get with a 6.5 and an 8-inch compared to like your typical 12 or even the dual 15s that a lot of people want to run for home theater use. Bigger is better. Yes and no. We'll talk about it a little bit. When it comes to accuracy, of course, the smaller drivers are always going to do better, but with room gain and just the size of rooms, it can always affect what your end result is. And of course, placement is crucial. But really what we're going to talk about, should you even bother spending any money on smaller subwoofers? And the short answer to that is yeah, you should, but only when you need it, like when it's applicable. If you have a small studio room, 10 by 10 room, even a 10 by 15 room, I mean, we're standing technically in, it's like 18 by 30 feet because it goes all the way back that way. We do have a half wall, but I mean, I've ran this Mirage, I think it's an MM6. It's a 200 watt RMS, 600 watt peak, little guy. I mean, it is a monster and it only weighs like 11 or 14 pounds, very small. Plate amp takes up the entire back of it. But this little guy really puts out very clean bass and at very respectable volumes. But this is what you would consider more of a mid-fi to hi-fi subwoofer because it does cost a decent amount of money. I think the retail value when it was sold was about $600. So you do tend to kind of substitute size for accuracy when you start to pay more, unless you're looking at like an SVS or an HSU subwoofer, some of those big boys that are meant for very large home theaters or just normal sized home theaters and people just want to go above and beyond. But when it comes to hi-fi and just 2-channel listening and music listening, you kind of want it to blend seamlessly. And the problem with bigger subwoofers is I always find myself turning the gain knob way down, because if I can close my eyes and basically be able to kind of point out where the subwoofer is too loud. You need it to kind of integrate with what you're running in the front, and a lot of people tend to run bookshelves and then they run their subwoofer at like 60 hertz and lower. You're creating a giant null where you want to kind of run it a little higher, and that's where these guys come in. I mean, you want 60 hertz to 100 hertz kind of just sloping right into the transition point. We're going to take a look at basically the drivers and how these two in particular are set up. For this Mirage, you are basically getting a cheap kind of entry-level subwoofer. This is only going to be about 60 to 80 watts RMS, maybe 100 watts peak. This is what a lot of you are going to see on Amazon and stuff that sell for about 90 to 150, maybe 200 bucks tops. You're not seeing any kind of power rating over 150 watts RMS. And they'll do great. Honestly, they sound fantastic. They can really fill in your low end. The crucial point with a smaller subwoofer, again, is placement. You want it put in the right spot of your room. For everyone, that's gonna be different based on the room. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is the sub crawl, which is where you place your subwoofer where you typically would be listening to it. Run a, sine wave or some kind of bass track through it, and then walk around your room, or as they say, crawl on your hands and knees to hear the low and high points of the bass and kind of pick where you want it. If you really want it to be exaggerated, you would go to the loudest point in the room. If you want it to be kind of more smooth, you go to the middle point, the part where you say, okay, it's not too loud where I can almost hear the driver itself moving, and it's not too quiet where it sounds like a dead spot. This guy's got a little bit of a trick. I'm wearing my very colorful socks today from a trampoline park, actually, which is kind of funny. This has 2 passive radiators, one on the right and left side, as well as an active in the front. So where this guy's gonna be ported, this is a sealed. So even when you're buying a smaller subwoofer, consider what you want. If you want the maximum, I guess, volume or like listenable bass in terms of just loudness and being there and being present, you're probably gonna go with ported. I mean, sealed is gonna be more for the people that want just the accuracy and like the finesse that comes with sealed subwoofers, especially with passive radiators. You get a little bit lower extension at the risk of consuming a little more power, which is why this little guy has over 200 watts RMS. I mean, it needs it because it's basically not only accounting for the pressure that's being displaced by itself, but the two passive radiators as well. So with that being said, we're gonna just give you a little sound test and just a little excursion of both of these, just so you can get an idea of, you know, what you can buy for anywhere from $100 here to, you know, well over $300-400 in a small footprint that can fit just about anywhere. So let's hook them up. You heard that? That was clipping. See, that's the problem with ported. Look at this. This is just, if you don't have a very good flared port, you get a lot of chuffing. Where now, if we move over to the MM6, you'll hear no chuffing, obviously, because it's sealed. But try and give you a nice little idea of what the MM6 can do. Start at half gain. So yeah, as you can tell, there's a very distinct difference between sealed and ported, but again, that's kind of not really what we're talking about. We're just trying to determine whether or not that's sufficient. So to give you one more test, we're gonna hook up the Dayton behind me, which is a 12-inch, and it's, I think, about 120 watts RMS. So again, kind of more of an entry-level subwoofer, and we'll show you the excursion on that. When the speaker moves the least and puts out the most sound, that's its tuned frequency, that's the FS. If anyone owns this, I believe it's the Dayton Sub 1200 or something like that. It is a fantastic subwoofer. So as you can tell, I mean, a 12 obviously has a lot more volume, but again, we're more talking about just having the bass there. If you ran tower speakers or bookshelves just in a room alone, sure, you're gonna get some bass from them, but smaller subwoofers are always going to fill it in more. So basically what it comes down to is what your needs are. Small subwoofers you shouldn't ignore completely, except for those home theater in a box subwoofers or the ones that Samsung sell. You should just avoid those like they're the plague. But if you actually want to dish out a little bit of money, you know, you can go big for pretty cheap. I mean, again, Dayton Audio 12 is like $150, and it is a fantastic 12-inch subwoofer. Or, you know, if you wanted to just kind of keep it simple, keep it cheaper, keep it smaller. I mean, we just did the Rockville 8, which is still tucked away in the closet over there. And I mean, even that did okay, and that was $85 or something like that. So it really just comes down to your budget, your room. Any small subwoofer in any room is always gonna add bass. It's just how much bass you want. If you wanna be rocking out at like 100 plus dB on your main speakers, you want a subwoofer that can keep up with it. So you want a subwoofer that can put out at least 100 decibels. These two at most, I mean, this sub $100, it's only like 60 watts RMS. You're only gonna get like 95 dB, maybe 98 if you're really getting close or holding the dB meter right next to it. Where the MM6, maybe you'll get 103, maybe 104 dB. You know, where of course, Dayton Audio, you're gonna get closer to like 110. You're gonna actually get, or 108, you're gonna actually get significantly louder volume, but it doesn't mean that those don't work in your situation. They will do great and they will suffice for what you need. We're just trying to basically make sure that people know that small subwoofers do work. Size doesn't necessarily matter depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking in quality of sound, tightness of bass, you definitely want to stick to more like a 10 or a 12, or even smaller, like I said, if you have a smaller room.
But what about car audio?
Now that's a good question, because for car audio, basically, most cars are small. The internal cabin space is very small, smaller than most rooms. I believe it's even smaller than a 10 by 10 room for most vehicles. So with that being said, I mean, you can run a 6.5, you can run an 8, you can run a 10, whatever the heck you really want. I mean, Chaz, you have a 6.5, which we'll get some footage of real quick. 42 hertz on a 6.5. I mean, I'm sure that gives you a decent enough frequency range, so we're gonna go check that out real quick and give you a little bonus feature for this video. So now we're in Chaz's car. He's got a Ford Fusion, and we are gonna listen to the 6.5, or yeah, 6.5, and we're gonna see what it can do. Again, decaf white clouds. Prepare to be impressed. Freaking 6.5. Look at that reflex. Oh my God. So yeah, as you guys can see, you don't need much. Size does not matter when it comes to subwoofers. It's how you use it. It's, oh God, that's a, you know, no, we're keeping that in there. It's how you use the subwoofer, it's where you place it, and it's just, like I said, it's all about application and placement. If it works for you, then it's gonna work in general, and it's gonna give you basically what you want. So we're gonna see what this little guy can do with decaf white clouds, get some excursion clips. Oh my God. Look at that thing. Damn, that's freaking moving.
It's almost hitting those metal bars, and that's
Jesus.
like 2 inches out.
There you have it, guys. Size does not matter. Thanks again for tuning in. Two Dudes Audio. You can't complain. Small subwoofers. Small subwoofers. Just get it over with. Doesn't matter. And then take this subwoofer, you would have probably one of the best 18-inch subwoofers for your money. We have a direct comparison between a replica of a JBL Eon, and then we have an actual JBL Eon right here. Quality that I would almost expect out of like a hi-fi subwoofer. All right, so let's see what's in here. Typically, people have seen what the Mackie Thumps have to offer.